Hello, grade 11. Today we're going to be covering chapter 11, lesson 3, Life in Western Europe. What political events in the year of 1900 made European countries believe they needed to be working together? Political events in the year of 1900 actually threatened all of Europe. In order to survive and compete in a changing world, the nations of Western Europe needed to learn to work together. After World War II, they made efforts to do this. In April 1951, the Treaty of Paris created an international agency to supervise the coal and the steel industries. France, West Germany, Belgium, and Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Italy signed the treaty. These 6 nations created the European Economic Community, which is known as the EEC, in 1958 to make trade among the member nations easier. So the European countries started with a union with only 6 countries at the beginning. In the year of 1967, these countries came together from the European Commission. In 1971, they were joined by the United Kingdom and Ireland. Then Denmark, Greece, Spain, Portugal joined the Commission by the late 1980s. So they became 12 nations. These 12 nations formed the European Union, or the EU. EU in 1993, which has many goals. The goals of the EU is, number 1, to strengthen trade between the countries of Europe. Number 2, member nations control their own political and economic decisions. Also, EU allow to follow the laws on the use of natural resources and release of pollutants. They also have agreements on law enforcement and security. How do the nations of European Union work together? The European Union now has 27 members. 8 of these nations are in Western Europe: Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Ireland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, then East and West Germany, united when the Soviet Union lost control in 1980s. Now Germany is a very strong country. Celts, Saxons, Romans, and Vikings, and others fought to control ancient Western Europe. These were the original tribes. Those groups actually faded as the modern nations of Western Europe began to take place. So the ethnic groups such as the French, Germans now rule the entire countries, and their language are the main languages of these nations. Most of these countries are home for members from ethnic minority group. Many of these actually are immigrants. They often speak the language of many of their homeland and keep also their own culture. What are the Indo-European languages? The Indo-European languages in Western Europe divided into 2 branches, the Romance languages and the Germanic languages. The Indo-European languages are a group of related languages which are spoken in most of Europe, parts of the world that were colonized also by Europeans, India, and parts of Asia. 2 major divisions of Indo-European languages spoken in Western Europe are Romance and Germanic. Romance languages are based on Latin, the language of Roman Empire. Although English is also a Germanic language, about half of its words come from the Romance languages. Not all Western European languages are Indo-European. However, for example, the Basque is spoken in the Pyrenees region of France and Spain. It is not related to any other language spoken today. Many Western Europe speak more than one language, their native language plus English, French, or German. What are the major religions that are practiced in Western Europe? As you know, Christianity continues to be the main religion of the country of Western Europe. Today, most Western Europeans are either Catholic or Protestants. The Roman Catholic faith is strongest in France, Ireland, and Belgium. Protestant churches are strongest in the United Kingdom and Germany. Also, many Muslims have emigrated to Western Europe, so they follow the religion of Islam. The Holocaust actually wiped out most of Europe's Jewish population, but today Jewish communities are growing again in Western Europe, especially in France, the United States, and Germany. For centuries, Western Europe has a world leader in the culture and arts. How? Europeans explorers spread European culture to other parts of the globe. The arts are an important part of Western Europe. Museums and cultural institutions celebrate each nation's art and history, and national governments support the arts. Western Europe had a culture major influence on the rest of the world. About sports, the most important team sport in Western Europe is soccer. Cricket, rugby are also popular, but in the United Kingdom, mountain climbing, skating, and skiing are popular activities in the rugged Alps of Switzerland and Austria. Much of the population of Western Europe lives in cities, so roads are very crowded. In order to relieve traffic congestion and control pollution, much of Europe has turned to high-speed rail lines. The first of these were built in France in 1981. In 1990, France rail lines began connecting to other high-speed rail lines. A well-developed highway system also links Europe to major cities, or links all Europe major cities together. Germany's superhighway are called Autobahn, are among Europe's best roads. So now all of European countries are connected through railroads. What are the original purpose of universities? As you know, Western Europe is one of the wealthiest, most urban and well-educated regions in the world. Many students go on to attend college. The region contains some of the oldest and the most famous universities, such as Oxford University in England and the University of Paris, opened even before the year of 1200. Universities were originally found to educate clergy. Why is Western Europe considered a post-industrial region? Actually, since the Industrial Revolution, improvements in agriculture have made it possible for fewer people to cultivate larger areas of land. Today, more than half of the population of Western Europe lives and works in cities. Even in France, the region's leading agriculture nation, less than 4% of the workforce work in agriculture. Although France is really one of the leading agriculture nations, but only 4% work in agriculture. In the past few decades, the number of industrial workers has also declined. The industrial, or actually secondary sector of the economy, employs only 25% of the people. Many more people work in tertiary sector or service industries. Service jobs include government, education, and repair. Every nation in Europe has post-industrial economy. That meant that more people work in services more than industry. What challenges do the nations of Western Europe face? In the year of 1900, Great Britain, France, Germany ruled over empires that extended beyond Europe to Asia, Africa, the Americas, and the Pacific Islands. The two World Wars were hard on the region. Then the Cold War kept it on the brink of war for 40 years. So we have three main events that have actually damaged or affected Western Europe. The two World Wars, then the Cold War continued for 40 years. Germany, France, and the United Kingdom are still among the 7 biggest economies in the world. The European Union helps the European nations compete with large economies such as the United States, China, and Japan. However, the global financial crisis of 2008 had an impact on all of the Europe or the European Union. Governments disagreed about how to deal with the ongoing financial problems. Most population growth in Western Europe today is from immigration. Germany, France, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom have large Muslim population. People come from Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe looking for better job opportunities to escape the political oppression. But the mix of Europeans and immigrant cultures creates more diverse culture, but also creates racial and religious tensions. That's all for life nowadays in Western Europe. Thank you.